Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us for the 2021 Arlington Relay for Life. My name is Colleen and I'm a member of the event leadership team for the Arlington Relay. We are so excited to be able to gather together in person and virtually for our event this year. The Luminaria Ceremony has always been one of my favorite parts of any Relay for Life event that I've participated in. It's an opportunity to remember and honor those we have lost and acknowledge those fighting so hard against this disease, and the sense of community you feel during this ceremony is unmatched. When I participated in my first Relay for Life event over 10 years ago, the Luminaria ceremony meant something very different to me than it does today. Back then, my heart would hurt for those around me who had lost their family and friends to cancer, and I would run home and hug my mom, who was still fighting her battle, and be thankful that I still had her there to hold. Since losing my mom to cancer, I have joined those in mourning, and have used the Luminaria ceremony as an opportunity to honor her memory in a very special way. When I was in middle school, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, which had metastasized to her brain prior to diagnosis. As you can imagine, the prognosis was not great. We were told that it could just be a few months. Somehow she defied the odds. My mom fought and survived for 5 years with this diagnosis, and there's not a day that goes by in which I fail to recognize how lucky we were and how grateful I am to have had those seemingly gifted extra 5 years with my mom. Those 5 years were not easy by any means. My mom endured numerous rotations of chemotherapy and radiation. She experienced extreme fluctuations in her weight and her disposition, and she had variations in her cognitive ability. As my mom's sole caregiver during this time, I too endured a very difficult period where I was faced with many difficult circumstances and decisions at my very young age. For example, there were several times where I had found my mom lying helpless on the ground after she lost the ability to control her motor functions, and I had to call an ambulance. We discovered that the tumors in her brain had swollen and impacted the areas in her brain which controlled her motor capabilities. Another similar circumstance happened where she had lost some cognitive functioning, and she was unable to correctly identify objects in our house or have complete thoughts. And at one point, she actually couldn't remember my name or that I was her daughter. Those 5 years were extremely tolling on an emotional level, both for me and my mom. I was faced with scary, difficult decisions that no teenager should be asked to make, and even more so for my mom as she recognized the fear and pain that we were both going through during this time. But that being said, those years were not always so bad. A lot of the time in between hospital stays, and with the help of some medications that helped to reduce the swelling that caused some of these more difficult episodes, my mom was relatively healthy. She never had a severe reaction to chemotherapy. She remained positive and motivated, and she was consistently in high spirits. And she really did keep up her energy for the most part. Over those 5 years, we took trips to visit my newborn nephew, we took family trips to Baltimore and Washington, D.C., went on many movie and brunch dates together, walked the boardwalk, and so much more. In those 5 years, I also got to know my mom a lot better. She shared stories from her childhood and adolescence, and stories from mine and my sister's upbringing. One of my favorite memories from those 5 years was actually at a Relay for Life event. For many years, my mom was too sick to come to one of the events, but there was one year where she felt well enough to attend. In a normal, non-pandemic Relay for Life, we kick off the event with a survivor lap where the cancer survivors in attendance lead everyone around the track as the event begins. That year, I was so excited to finally be able to walk alongside my mom during the survivor lap. When the time came for the lap to begin, she was selected to lead the entire group of survivors. When I got to see my mom up front and center among a mass of survivors, caregivers, and so many caring attendees, I noticed the huge smile on her face as she proudly wore her survivor sash and led the way. It was such a special moment for us as we recognized her hard fight against this disease and celebrated the victory she had overcome during her battle. I'm so thankful to the American Cancer Society and all of the Relay for Life events that I've taken part in for that memory. My mom lost her battle after 5 years in 2013, just a few weeks after my second nephew, her second grandchild, was born. He was actually born 3 weeks early, and we like to think that he came early so she could meet him. A lot has happened in the 8 years since my mom has left us. My high school and college graduations, my nephews and her grandchildren growing up and starting school, so many birthdays and Christmases, and so much more. While I wish so much that she could have been here for those events, I recognize how lucky we were and how grateful I am for the extra 5 years we got together. I'm so thankful to have learned so much from my mom about motivation and the power of optimism. In her life, she faced more difficult circumstances than anyone else I know, and yet she was the most positive person I knew. I know this positive spirit and motivation to get better is what granted her those extra 5 years, and I try to inject these same virtues into my work and my life now. So while I'm terribly sad and miss my mom dearly, and am mourning her memory during this Luminaria ceremony, I feel a radiation of positivity as I look out to everyone gathered here in person and virtually for such an amazing cause fighting cancer. And I know that we have such a wonderful source of support in this community as we honor our loved ones who have lost their fight, who are still battling, and who have defeated their cancers. Thank you so much for listening to my story, and I wish you all the strength, motivation, and positivity in each of your stories and battles.